Okay, hello, I'm AC, and today I'd like to invite you to a brief stream for a Zeta-related announcement that I've been working on for a little while. Yes, that's Terminal ZZT. I was trying to find something as a backdrop for the announcement, but I could not come up with anything better, so here we are, right. So for a brief explanation, there's probably some of you who aren't very familiar with Zeta or ZZT. So, ZZT was a 1991 game creation system created by Tim Sweeney, now CEO of Epic Games. It was his first commercial project, and what made it very notable online is the fact that it had a built-in level editor in the free shareware version, which at the time meant that many communities were created around it. Now, that was 1981. We're in 2020. It's been 29 years, and over those years, ZZT has inspired thousands of players and creations and game creators. But, like, with all the talk, like, DOS machines went away long ago. We're not really using DOS now, so how did people keep playing and creating worlds in ZZT? If you go to the Museum of ZZT, which is run by Dr. DOS, you'll see that there's thousands of ZZT worlds made in pretty much every year. So, one path, the common path, was emulation and virtualization. Say, when Windows NT and 2000 appeared on the scene, it was NTVDM, which worked. It was built in. It didn't work great, but it worked. Then a lot of people use DOSBox. DOSBox is a great tool for running DOS-based games and applications, but it doesn't work very well with ZZT. There's the need to set the CPU speed manually, because if you set it too low, the game's gonna lag. If you set it too high, it's gonna use too much of your CPU. So, I arrived on the scene in 2018 with a bit of an idea to create an emulator dedicated for running ZZT, which we're running ZZT in right now. It's called Zeta, and it has essentially been hand optimized to allow running ZZT better. Try to reduce input lag, detect idle loops so it's not eating all of your CPU, automatically adjusting speed, things like that, supporting more memory. But it's not perfect. Like, Zeta is not the greatest solution. However, it is the best thing we have right now, so I guess we're gonna have to keep using it. So, with all that in mind, how can I, as the Zeta developer, make life a bit easier for all of us who are using Zeta to release our own ZZT games online? Well, I have an answer to that. I'm going to make the first announcement now. Just in a moment, because my computer is acting up a little. Okay. There we go. So the first thing I'd like to announce today is, if we go on GitHub, the first thing you might notice is that Zeta is now on GitHub. It wasn't on GitHub before, and in order to make it easier for people to embed Zeta in their works and online, it was under the GPL license for very long, which is a very good license, but for game creation, I decided it might be easier to just make it MIT licensed. So the MIT license has very simple terms, which many of you are familiar with, and it's on GitHub now, so my goal is to make it significantly easier for creators to be able to use it in their works without worrying for, like, keeping the source open, etc. So that's the first announcement for today. Now, Zeta isn't perfect. Like, we rely on it, it's the best thing we use currently, but it has a performance penalty. It's not GIT based, and even if it was, there'd still be issues with porting that would come up then, where we could make a WebAssembly GIT, but that quickly scales up to a lot of investment, and even then, we're still reliant on all the issues and bugs and design decisions in terms of control and stuff of the original executable. And if you look at this screenshot, this is a prototype of Zeta for Android. Now, it did work, more or less, but as you can see, like, my problem here is with the controls. They're very clunky. There's 10 buttons which have to be present at all times. Half of them don't even do anything at a given point, and there's just not enough room to fit buttons which would actually benefit a specific game. As you know, many ZZT games have somewhat different play styles, especially engine games. So that's not really good. So what can we do about this? Well, we're not gonna fix ZZT. Like, Tim Sweeney has lost the source code many years ago, so that's not gonna help us. We don't have it. But we can clone ZZT. See, there have been many clones of ZZT made over the past many years, 2 decades, I believe. And they're not 100% accurate. They often get close, some get really close. Some even try to be better, like introducing, I believe ZZT Ultra had a great feature where it tried to emulate the PC speaker sound. But they're never perfect, and often those clones just don't get documented either, so you have so many clone developers and they all keep guessing the same things differently. And the wheel keeps being reinvented, like every clone does the same thing differently and they all support different games differently. We don't have a consistent source of documentation which would allow us to create the perfect clone. And that's just sad, because if we had the chance to build a perfect clone, or even a chance to fix some of the bugs in the ZZT executable, we could do so much more as a community. But we just don't have that right now, so what can I, as a developer, do to change the situation? Well, there are some things I could do. There are indeed some things I could do. I'd like to introduce to you today my proudest achievement, which I'm incredibly proud to be able to unveil to such a large audience today. This is the reconstruction of ZZT. Now, what is this, you might ask? It's a bit of an odd thing, really. You can see it has a documentation folder and the source code folder, and there's a bunch of Pascal files in here. And there's a documentation folder, there's a bunch of help files in here. So let's see what we can do with all of that. Let's see. So I'm gonna need to do some setup real quick here. Okay. I'm gonna make a quick setup here. Okay. Okay. There we go. So we have this window here, and if we set the path to Turbo Pascal, and we're on build, that went quickly. I have a dynamic core enabled here, and if we go to this, we have a bunch of files in here, including one particular file, which I'll get to in a moment. So, oh, I forgot to fix the colors in this one. Let's fix that real quick. There we go. Okay, so we can get here, and this is the demo world. As you can see, it acts exactly like ZZT. Of course, we're going to check the centipedes. And the centipedes work just fine, so that's how you know it's the perfect ZZT clone, because the centipedes are working exactly as you'd expect. So, we now have something that looks like the source code to ZZT, and I'd like to show this to you, but I don't really have the setup for it. It's a byte-level accurate reconstruction, which means that there are no differences between the ZZT.exe build by this repository and the ZZT.exe that came with ZZT 3.2 all these years ago. In other words, since we have a perfect reconstruction of the binary, we can be sure that the source code is an accurate representation of the engine that came from it. which means that for the first time we have the perfect reference material, that we have the perfect source code. We can do anything with it. We can make forks, you can port it to other platforms, do whatever with it. But, there's a bit of a problem. There's a license on ZZT. If you go back to the 1997 freeware release, you'll notice that among the terms and conditions, it clearly says that you cannot perform decompilation or reverse engineering of the executable. So clearly, this whole project is illegal and we're going to be shut down by Epic in a few hours, judging by our lower view counts. Well, not really. That's not the case either. If you go to the license file, there's a little tidbit here. You see, this project has actually received permission to be released under the MIT license alongside Zeta. In other words, we now have the source code to ZZT and tools to rebuild their documentation file and a few other things. And this whole set is now MIT licensed alongside Zeta, and the potential for that is absolutely immense. I recall one creator asking me if that they want to bundle their ZZT with their game on itch, but they were considered about all of these licensing clauses. And I'm glad to report that that's no longer an issue. You can just take the reconstruction of ZZT, build the binary, and bundle with your game under the MIT terms, and not worry about anything else. Yes, I got Tim's blessing. This is a project with permission. This is licensed. So, now I hope you understand why I wanted to get all of you here to a special stream. So, there's a large... In fact, it's available on GitHub right now. You can go to that link. It's public. You can go there right now. So, this is not the original source code. It's a reconstruction. We do not have the original source code. It has been lost. But yes, the SHA-256 sum matches, and if you diff the two files, they're identical. So there's a lot of answers. You can find ZZT Worlds to play. The open source release is documented. There's even some notes on compiling with free Pascal if you're gonna do that instead. Because what you need is the resource, the repository, and another thing is, it turns out that ZZT was actually built with Turbo Pascal 5.5, not 5.0. Which is great news, because 5.5 is actually freeware on Embark Tradero's Antic Software website. So you can actually download that version legally for free, and yes, you can just go and compile ZZT. In 5 minutes you can be running your own version of ZZT, and you can do anything with it, as long as you adhere to the license terms. And of course, mind the recipe for 5 better friends, because it's a very good recipe. I highly recommend all of you go after this stream and do it. So, I'd like to thank all of you for visiting here. Zeta is going to get a release with the MIT relicensing and an SDL2 update very soon. The reconstruction of ZZT is going to get a binary release here real soon. The binary release includes ZZT.exe, ZZT.dat, and we've thrown in demo.zzt as well because it's essentially part of the documentation. Note that the official ZZT worlds are not bundled. This is just the engine and the documentation. It doesn't contain the game worlds. If you want to contribute some game worlds to come with a future official release of a ZZT fork, that'd be very nice. Also, I'd personally like to ask you that you don't refer to projects based on this in a way which would confuse them with an official release of ZZT. We don't want a ZZT 5.0 going around, so please just come up with a different name. That's a personal request, though. Legally, you're bound strictly by the terms of the license. So, that's it, I guess. Do you have any questions? Because we have a few minutes left for a quick Q&A. Yeah, the reconstruction of ZZT is the official name for the project. Right now it's just the source code. I would like to encourage that ZZT 3.2 is kept to as a standard for popularity, like for functioning. But there's a lot of things you can do while adhering to ZZT 3.2's format. Like you can fix the bottom row bug. You can make increase the stat limit or the board limit in a way which doesn't actually break anything. There's a lot of potential for RAM optimization. You could make it use EMS so you can have megabytes large worlds. At this point, I can only imagine the possibilities. I mean, we could port this to Windows and just get rid of Zeta altogether, which is... Right, Constraint is now MIT licensed. I have no comment on Super ZZT right now, so I drafted that as a maybe. No strong feelings one way or the other. Okay, is that everything? What's the next big step for this project? Well, this project is complete. Its goal was to reconstruct the ZZT source code. And we have the reconstructed ZZT source code. So this repo is complete. It will probably not be accepting pull requests or anything. But I will probably be making a fork of my own, and honestly I expect 20 forks to appear by tomorrow. Yeah, so speaking of which, if you're outside of the Museum of ZZT, I highly recommend going to the Museum of ZZT. It has many great games, and here's a link to the Discord server, and you can find all of that there. How? That's a very good question, and I will be answering it in more detail in the future, but as a quick summary, I spent a lot of hours on this. I don't even want to admit how many hours I spent on this. So yeah, essentially lots of time and effort and sweat. No tears though. So I hope this is the biggest ZZT news, and I hope all of the work that comes from it will lead us well into the 30th anniversary, which is coming in January next year. So thank you. Thank you all. If you have any more questions, I'll answer them now. If not, we can talk to each other at the museum. Too long. I'm not even gonna admit how much time it was. Okay, so right, thank you. Thank you for watching, and we're gonna see each other next time. Oh, I recommend you don't rewrite your ZZT versions article yet, because I believe there's gonna be a lot of forks in a few months. But, you know, this release is like identical to ZZT 3.2, just with fewer files, and a slightly different help file, because it includes the licensing information. Only ZZT.exe is identical, ZZT.dat is free reign. Oh, and one more thing I'd like to bring up before I go. There's a tool called datpack, which I developed for this, which lets you create your own ZZT.dat files, which are compatible with ZZT 3.2. So if you want to revive Chronos and HM's file project and do it properly, that's something you can do as well. Well, the possibilities are literally endless. So, okay, that's it for now. Thank you all. See you on the museum. Goodbye.